Chapter 53, J. Achievement, first dungeon. Achievement, depth 50, reached. Achievement, fifth age, discovered. Achievement, crisis, leadership. Achievement, giant slayer. Achievement, tomb raider. Achievement, diplomat. Captain, level 9. Oathkeeper, level 5. Skill, lesser squad tactics, obtained. Skill, lesser diplomacy, obtained. Jacob finished securing the new sail in place and stepped back. The huge tapestry or flag he had taken from the underground tomb, at least that's what the words in his mind had called it when he had woken up, was holding firm against the gusts of wind that had torn apart the old sail. Of course, sail was using the term lightly. It had been little more than a quilt of clothes tied together by Ina. She had wanted to rebuild the old one, but after the third time the wind had blown it apart, Jacob had brought out the flag. The cloth rings that had been used to secure it to the wall had been perfect for looping vines through, and his knot-tying skill had significantly improved. The vines themselves seemed more robust now that Brennan had finally been able to water them. The sections that had gone loose and sagged now held firm. Brennan himself handed Jacob the lengths needed to secure the flag, though he grumbled about them being not quite ready and having to castrate his girl. A large blue moon now fluttered in the wind. Straight rays of moonlight seemed to shift as they extended toward the edges of the fabric. The smaller red circle of Ra'ino that lay in the exact center must have been threaded with a reflective material. It glowed in the sunlight. If this is the sigil of one of the nations of this world, it could create problems for us, said Lou. You're not wrong, said Jacob. But we need a sail that can hold up to the wind, and right now we don't have anything better. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. What bridge? Said Lou. Bro, it's a saying. He means we'll deal with the issue when it becomes a problem, said Manu. Right, said Jacob. Jacob held onto the mast as the raft reached the peak of a wave and started to ramp down the other side. The waves were now reaching 5 feet in height, and the wind was coming in increasingly stronger gusts, but the raft was holding together. In fact, with the new sail holding strong, it seemed like they were moving at a decent speed for once. Maybe we'll get to the outpost with time to spare, he thought. No, my babies! Brennan shouted, and Jacob turned just in time for a jelly flower to splatter on his cheek. Deep blue jelly dripped onto him, and the feeling of burning hit his nerves as he quickly tried to brush it off. Now his hand was burning. He rushed to the edge of the raft and waved his hand in the warm, salty water. He saw Ina smirking at him as he turned around. Brennan, secure your plants, Jacob said loudly. Don't take that tone with me, Captain. I need a cover to shield the plants from the wind. Chop me some bamboo. 8 pieces, 1 foot in length. Jacob groaned. The tide sword was still the best tool they had, and as he got to work cutting the pieces, he put Manu in charge of the sail. The wind was so strong that the freestanding edge of the sail was more difficult to keep positioned to catch it. I have to attach a counterweight to the bottom of it at some point, he thought. Hey, Matt's awake, Jessica said from where she had been sitting next to Matt. Matt's face was still red and blistered, but his leg now had an area of fresh new skin. The Naga priestess's magic had done good work. Jessica had been giving Matt water while he was unconscious through his NG tube, which is a tube that she had inserted into his nose that went all the way through to his stomach. Unfortunately, when she tried to crush some of the crab meat and mix it with water, it kept clogging the tube. Jessica spent some time asking Matt yes-no questions and repositioning his body to make sure he was comfortable. Once he was settled, she stepped past Ina to approach Jacob. Ina glared at her as she passed. What happened between those two? Jacob thought. He hadn't gotten the chance to get either one of them alone to ask. The raft was just too small to hide private conversations. Jacob, Captain, I would like to make a request, said Jessica. Sure. Do you need something for Matt? Jacob said. No. I want to claim that stylus and tablet you brought back. Tablet? That picture frame looking thing? Yeah. I think it's supposed to be some kind of writing or drawing. Absolutely not. Ina jumped in. She scowled at Jessica. Jacob furrowed his eyebrow and looked between the two women. Ina jumped in again. She's not crew, which means she doesn't get a share of the spoils, and I want it. She smirked at Jessica. Jessica started to raise her voice. You don't even want it, Ina. She turned to Jacob. She's just mad at me because I wanted to conserve our medical supplies for us. You were going to let that Naga die. Realization filtered over Jacob's face. Jessica continued. So what? You think that Naga would have saved us if the situation was reversed? My responsibility is to keep everyone here alive, not waste resources on monsters that want to kill us. See? Ina looked at Jacob. The problem was that Jacob could see where Jessica was coming from, but she didn't know what he knew, that Ina was a Naga. But he couldn't tell Jessica that, especially now. Ina saw him thinking and continued, and I'm the first mate, and she didn't follow my orders. I'm not part of the crew, as you already stated. You don't get to order me around. Jessica narrowed her eyes at Ina. Everyone else on the raft was watching the drama unfold, while Ina and Jessica both turned to look at Jacob. He thought, damn it, I don't want to pick a side. Jacob coughed. I believe you are both partly right here. Both women narrowed their eyes at him. While Ina does speak for me when I'm not present as first mate, Jessica is not technically part of the crew, so we can't give her orders. Jessica smirked while Ina's eyebrows furrowed and her eyes went ice cold. That said, because Jessica is not part of the crew, she does not receive a share of the loot, and unless anyone else wants it, Ina may claim it. Ina's scowl neutralized, but she still didn't look happy. Jessica's smirk disappeared now, and she looked angry. I just can't win, Jacob sighed. Jessica spoke. I want to join the crew then. We do not offer you a position, said Ina. Jacob coughed again. I see you don't want her to join, Ina, but having a nurse on the crew would be invaluable. I believe we should allow Manu and Lou to also weigh in on this. Jacob looked at the two men. Bro, I'm staying out of this. Manu put his hands up in surrender. Lou spoke. Ina, I understand you have reservations, but if we get hurt, it would be beneficial to have someone with knowledge of healing. Ina snorted and crossed her arms. Well, that makes 2 votes to proceed, 1 against, and 1 abstained. We will proceed with the interview. Jessica asked. Right now? We better get this over with, Jacob thought, eyeing Ina's glaring face. Yeah, why not? He paused. Okay, we'll do it at the front. Clear a space. He moved some supplies out of the way. The raft was now crowded and sat down, motioning for Jessica to sit across from him. Ina didn't move. Jacob spoke. Ina, come on. As first mate, you still need to ask questions. I'm not. She paused, and suddenly a mischievous look flitted over her face. Actually, you're right. And I have some good questions to ask. Ina waited patiently with a smirk on her face, arms crossed. Instead of sagely nodding along as Jessica would answer Jacob's questions, she would shake her head no. This continued as Jacob ran through the usual list everyone was growing familiar with. Jessica had wanted to go to art school, but when she was kicked out at 18, had to find a career she could get into fast with good pay. She had decided to become a nurse. She had worked a few different nursing jobs and was eventually hired by Matt's family for private nursing. She had been with him for 2 years. Other than the recent drama, she wanted to join the crew because she believed it would be safer in this strange world, and she might need help keeping Matt safe. She could contribute to the crew with her medical knowledge. In 5 years, she hoped they had found a way back home, or if not, that they had figured a way to get Matt taken care of. Other than that, she thought she would have to see how things at the trade outpost went and would need to learn more about the world to decide where she would like to be. Jacob didn't bother asking what potential problems might arise from her joining the crew as he eyed Ina, who had been curiously quiet. He thought that was obvious. Okay, Ina. Is there any questions you would like to ask? Ina smiled. Oh, yes. A few come to mind. She straightened her back and used her interview tone she had adopted from Jacob. Jessica, what do you imagine would have happened if the Naga showed up and they realized you had let one of them die? Jacob had a sharp intake of breath and looked at Jessica, who had narrowed her eyes. Well, if they really are as nice and friendly as you claim, then nothing. They would realize it wasn't our fault and let us go. Jacob heard a snort and turned to see Manu shaking his head. Interesting. Ina shook her head no slightly. Would you say you enjoy seeing other people in pain? Jacob's eyes widened, but Jessica had an icy calm over her face. Only her flaring nostrils and narrow eyes showed the impact of Ina's questioning. No, I would not. Look, Ina, I didn't enjoy seeing the Naga in pain. I'm just not going to spend medical supplies on an animal when humans need it. Ina's eye twitched. Animal. Interesting. She glanced at Jacob meaningfully and then back to Jessica. How many animals have you let die when you could have saved them? Jessica's expression changed as the words registered. She blinked slowly, glanced at Jacob briefly, and then back at Ina. She set her jaw and then responded. 1, if people count as animals. It was as though a chill swept through the raft. Everyone went from trying to hide their smiles at Ina's line of questioning to staring at Jessica. Ina glanced at Jacob, then back at Jessica. No more questions. Jacob spoke. Jessica, I have to ask. Who did you let die? Was it a patient? Jessica's expression darkened. It was my father. and he deserved it. Okay. Jacob nodded slowly while glancing at the others. All right. We need to confer. One moment, Jessica. Ina and Jacob both turned around and leaned close to whisper. You see, she can't be trusted. She's not a good healer. We can find someone better. Ina, look, I understand why you feel the way you do. But remember, Jessica has only seen Naga be aggressive until yesterday. Her friend Marcia was killed by one, and in the end, she did the right thing. You have to admit that at the very least, we do need her until we find another healer. Ina snorted. Also, if she joins the crew, that means you can give her orders. Within reason. She has to do what you say. Ina's eyes lit up. Remember, it does have to be something I would agree to. You still have to be responsible. Fine, said Ina. I get to name her position, though. Are nurses the best healers from your world? No. Doctors would be. Nurses usually help them with patients. Doctor? Okay, I'm ready. Jacob eyed her warily. Okay. They turned around. Jessica, I want to confirm that you understand that if you do become a member of the crew, Ina's orders must be followed. That said, Ina will not ask you to do anything that I would not. He gave Ina a meaningful look. Ina shrugged. Jessica sighed. Fine, but I'm going to verify anything strange with you. Noted. Jacob looked to Ina. Okay, Ina, go ahead. Ina smirked. Okay, Jessica. The final question I have to ask you is, how do you think you would perform as the ship's animal doctor? Ina's eyes brightened as she looked for Jessica's reaction. This does mean, of course, that you are responsible for healing animals, including Naga. Let me know if you think that is too much for you to handle. Jessica looked at Jacob, who tilted his head and gave a slight nod. It's fine, whatever, she said. Okay, then we don't see the need for any further interviews. The position is Animal Doctor of the Last Chance. Ina smiled. Remember, no more killing animals. She started clapping and looked around to make sure everybody else did. They were all a bit taken aback, but everyone started hesitantly clapping, except Brennan. Jessica looked a bit unsure of the celebration and sat there awkwardly looking around. Yes, very nice, Jessica, the animal doctor. Ha! You can mess with all the animals you want, but stay away